Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Welcome to Game Over Montreal. In the spirit of last season, it's another Montreal Canadiens loss. The Seattle Kraken get back at the Canadiens for the Canadiens' ridiculous win over the Kraken a little over, was it over a month ago? Was it under a month ago? It's been a while since the Canadiens have had, a win that's memorable. I know they won against St. Louis last game, but it seems like the win before that was many moons ago. I know in that game the Canadiens were absolutely dominated, similar to this one by the shot count. But in this one, I will say, score effects are a thing. But after the first period, I think the game was a little bit better than what the stats show on like the totals, just because the first period was so lopsided in favor of Seattle that the Canadiens, they woke up, but it wasn't enough. Obviously, the shutout 4-0 by the Kraken. Shut out by Martin Jones, which, that never feels good. But there's some stuff to talk about tonight. I think there was, we got to talk about Sam Montembeault, who I think was pretty strong. That brutal start, of course. And Slavkovsky having a good showing after quite the quote when he was asked about the World Juniors the other day. And obviously, the top line still strong. And Jake Evans went Hulk tonight out of nowhere. So he's mad about the losing. We'll see if the rest of the roster is mad. We're going to talk to Jared Book from Habs Eyes on the Prize in a moment as well. I love talking to Jared. We always go in directions that I wasn't expecting because we both like to chit-chat about whatever and go off on tangents. So it should be a fun show tonight. And before we get into it, though, think you know which way it's going to go? Make your bet with Sports Interaction. Whether it's hockey, football, basketball, Sports Interaction has you covered. Bet pregame, live in play, or on one of our many prop bets. Join now and see all sports betting has to offer. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Want to bet? Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. 19 plus, please play responsibly. And hey, if you're here enjoying this content on SDPN, we just launched The Objective, a basketball podcast, which is going to be incredible. Head to S's Twitter and make sure that you watch the trailer for for the podcast because it is a wild one, and I greatly enjoyed it. His interpretation of how basketball is like jazz. So obviously that one is going to be a continuing story for this network as we branch out beyond just hockey. But lots to talk about there. But let's get into the game. I'm going to welcome in my guest, Jared Book. Jared, how are you, even though you had to watch that game?
Can't complain. Can't complain. I mean, look, I got to think about the Expos for a little bit. 3 hours to think about the Expos on a Monday night. It could be worse, I suppose. But I mean, I think that they really messed up the jerseys. Like on the collar, they have a year where it reminisces what year they're honoring, and it says 1979. I think they meant 1969 when the Expos were 52-110 and lost 110 games. That's my thinking. The expansion Expos. That's what they're honoring when they wear these jerseys.
Yeah, I believe they've now lost. They're like 1-8.
Or they're 0-4 in these ones.
Yes, but they won one in the other blue jerseys.
Yeah, so I think they're probably 1-11 now.
Oh, geez,
in blue jerseys. Yeah,
it's not great. I know everybody's freaking out about the jerseys, and I find it super funny.
It's yeah.
Like I think like I've seen some cantankerous people being like, well, it's not the jerseys, it's just the Canadians are terrible, and it's like nobody actually thinks it's the jerseys. It's just funny to point out how terrible they happen to be in these jerseys. It's like, yes, they're bad. They are extra bad in these jerseys. And it's like every game they just get shelled and they can't generate offense. And I remember the same thing with the blue one. The darker blue one. They could not generate offense wearing that blue jersey. It's like their spirit leaves their body and rejects wearing blue because this is a red, white, and blue team.
Yeah.
Not enough red on this jersey.
No, that's the biggest problem. That's the biggest problem with the jersey. The Expos had red. If you look at the baby blue jerseys the Expos had, there was red. Like if you make the white piping red on this jersey, it's like 1,000 times better, makes more sense, and it probably looks better too because there's not as much just two colors. But anyway, also it's Metal's fault. You can't honor the Expos and kill UP off. You just can't do it. It makes no sense.
It
And
doesn't.
so yeah, it's not the jerseys, it's metal. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like that's kind of what I like about Metal is that he's so stupid and not funny, and it makes no sense that I kind of like him because of that,
Yeah.
and the fact that he looks like Michael Pizzetta. But like we talked about it before the show, the
Yeah.
fact that the Canadians are bringing this reverse retro jersey back to honor the Montreal Expos. They have the Montreal Expos mascot, and they're like, "What if we created a new mascot only for the reverse retro games that honor the Expos, and don't talk about Yuppie anytime we're honoring the Expos?" It's like, what brain genius in the room was like,
Yeah.
hold on, this is what we got to do? It's a weird one. I know we're getting sidetracked talking about
Yeah. But
mascots, but still.
if it wasn't about the Expos, it would be a great concept. But because you specifically say we're honoring the Expos, and then you basically kill off the old Expos mascot for these games. Yeah.
It's a weird
Anyway,
one.
it's weird,
You know
but
what sold me on how dumb Metal is? When they were talking about how he was like the ultimate like metal rocker, and there's like, and he heard the sound of sticks, and I was like, sticks, like the band that Adam Sandler loves, that metal, that's like soft rock, man. Who decided these things? It's so bad that it's good.
yeah,
That's where I
like
am.
I would have no problem with metal if the Expos weren't involved in this. I think it's a hilarious concept. Like I'm not one of those people like, oh, history and why do they have a mascot? I love fun. I just don't think it makes sense.
It doesn't.
And anyway, nothing makes sense with this team right now. So we'll
Well,
let into
that's
that.
true. And like we talked about it before the show a little bit, that like people are on Marty St. Louis right now because, who is not getting the most ice time, or the team's bad, and how come this guy's playing in this position? And I think you hit the nail on the head, Jared, and you said there is no right combination right now. There's the top line, which is legitimately very good, and there's, Evans, Dadonov, and Armia seem to be hitting something like crazy right now. They're 3 games in a row. I think they were the best line on the team. But other than that, you can mix it and match it however you want. But while Monahan is out, there's nobody carrying the bag. Is great. Like, I want to be clear, Slavkovsky I thought was great tonight, but that line as it's constructed doesn't work. It doesn't function like a line in the NHL should.
No, and that's a problem with a lot of things. Like when like even when Josh Anderson is on the top line, it doesn't work. The combination doesn't work, and it's kind of like the Canadians right now are a puzzle, and the top line and like Evans and Armia are like the four corners that you're like, oh yeah, this is where it goes, and then the rest of it is just thrown on like a 5-year-old did it, and it's like, yeah, it looks okay. That's what the Canadians are right now. Like there's no right answer. And it's not Martin St. Louis' fault. It's not Kent Hughes' fault. This is a rebuild. It's a
Yep.
team it's an organization in transition. The Athletic had an article today about how the AHL system is nothing like the NHL system. Well, yeah, because the AHL coach was hired with a different NHL coach, and you can't really get a guy to just be like, yeah, do this. It doesn't work that way. It's an organization in transition, and this is what's going to happen. You're going to have guys who just don't fit in, and there are players who are playing below their potential. Like Yoel Armia was doing that all year. Now he's finally back to his beast mode that he gets into for like 2 months a year, and then usually in the playoffs, and then hey, it earned him a lot of money, I guess. But they're better than this, but they just don't fit in together. It's no one's fault, not even the veterans. Like I'm not even going to blame the veterans. Like people saying, oh, they have no effort. Like that's such an overused trope. Like it's
Yeah.
not effort. It's just this team doesn't fit right now. It's a bad team, and they looked good for a bit. A lot of that was because Sean Monahan was a guy who can fit in anywhere, and it was a great help to this team. A lot of that was Caden Gooley, who saved a lot of veterans decisions out there, and a lot of that was great goaltending. And Sam Montembeault was really good tonight. but he's not being great. And when you allow, not all 4 goals were his fault, very obviously, but when you allow 4 goals, you're not going to win very many games. Like
Yeah.
it's just a reality, and that's where we are right now. It's a bad team. We knew it was going to be a bad team going into the season. There was maybe some reason for optimism, and there has been reason for optimism. But I think as long as Suzuki looks good, as long as Caulfield looks good, Doc and Slavkovsky, as long as they look good, I really don't care about the rest. I really don't, because those are the 4 guys you need to show improvement. The young defenders are important too, yes. They haven't been too bad, but like there's gonna be ups and downs. Like I'm not worried about them either. But those are the 4 guys that I want to see improvement from. And as long as they are still showing up and playing well on a game-to-game basis, and Slavkovsky had a really good game today, even though he didn't score, I think that's positive. And I'm not going to be saying, sit here and lose every game for draft lottery odds. That even the first place team gets 18.5%. It's not very much. And they're not going to finish last anyway. The gap is too big, so I'm not worried about if they win some games. But that's where I am right now. It's a bad team. They're going to pick in the bottom, probably in the bottom 5, for sure, bottom 7. And it's a good draft to do that in, and they'll have another Florida pick as well. So it's a rebuild. This is what you signed up for. When you say Mark Bergevin didn't rebuild this team and it was a disaster, this is a rebuild. It's going to be okay. There's a lot of good prospects. We saw the World Juniors. It's going to be okay. But for now, this is what it is.
Yeah. And listen, I completely understand when people are like putting aside their time to watch 2.5 to 3 hours of this team every second night,
Yeah.
82 times. And a good chunk of the season is like tonight, where it was like uninspiring, you know, hockey where you really just you have nothing to talk about at the water cooler the next day at work.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even score a goal, which is super frustrating. Although, like, I feel like they did enough to score a goal. It's just things
Yeah.
didn't break right for them tonight. I thought at the end of the game there, Caulfield and Suzuki had like 4 or 5 really good chances, and the puck just would not go to the right spots for them. Stuff like that happens, but in a rebuild, like, I think the expectations that were set in the first month or so of the season, where things continued to break right for this team, got people excited to the point where, like, yeah, they're going to lose a lot, but, like, every game's going to be 3-2 or 4-3 or 5-4. And, like, the fact is, in a rebuild over an 82 game season, multiple of them, because they're not going to be amazing next year either, in my opinion, uh, they're going to have stretches like this where you allow 4 goals or more 8 straight games. And, there'll be positives to pick out there, like Caulfield, like Slavkovsky tonight. Uh, like the fact that they only allowed 4 to the Kraken. One was an empty netter, where the Kraken put up 8 on Ottawa. They put up 5 on Toronto. Like, they've just been scoring at will these days. So, like, I guess you could say defensively, pretty good effort from the Montreal Canadiens tonight, or at least Sam Montembeault. Overall, at even strength, yes, a lot of it is score effects, but the Canadiens actually held the edge in high danger chances, in expected goals, pretty much even in scoring chances, even in shot attempts. It's just that the Kraken are much better at getting their shots through. They're much better at defending than the Canadiens were. So, like, there's positives to pick out, but there are going to be stretches where there's just not a lot to hold interest. And, for people like us, Jared, where we're in the business of hoping people are engaged, it kind of sucks. But I totally understand anyone who's like, yeah, I'm not watching for a bit.
Oh, absolutely. Look. I don't blame anybody who turned that game off in the first period. That was an
No.
unacceptable performance. Like I understand Martin St. Louis not wanting to get angry and not wanting to, you know, rile up guys and things like that. And because you don't want to coach results, but process in that first period was awful.
Oh yeah,
And
terrible.
you could excuse, like, I can excuse anyway. I'm not going to speak for everybody. I can excuse mistakes, turnovers, giveaways, bad coverages, that allow goals, penalties, whatever. But what's not acceptable is a perceived complete lack of effort and enthusiasm. And that's what they had in the first period. Like, they had one shot for most of the period. Like, they looked like Finland playing USA in the women's under 18 earlier today. Like, just like completely, like, I'm not saying Finland was unwilling to play, but the Canadians were just not ready for this game, and that happens a lot. Whether it's
Yeah.
start of games or especially the start of games, it seems like I remember talking. I think it was probably with you earlier in the year, where I'm like, at least this team is not giving up 2 goals by the 5 minute mark this season, and well, it's happening again. And it's I don't want to say I don't want to like revisit the Dom Ducharme era, but like maybe it wasn't all his fault in terms of because we're seeing the same kind of things. Obviously this roster is a lot worse. So I
Yeah,
mean
I
that's
think
that's one
that's
thing.
that's like important
That's
context, right?
that's it's an important thing, and the goaltending is about the is about the same as it was under him, and that was the difference between the first part of the season and now, is that when Jake Allen and Sam Montembeault are allowing 2 goals a game, you have a lot better chance of winning games than
Yep.
when they're allowing 4 and 8 straight. And again, it's not all on them; it's a team concept, but I think that there's certain goals that have gone in over the last 8 games that they want back.
Oh,
And at the
100%.
beginning of the season, that wasn't happening, right? So, goaltending is going to make a young team feel a lot more confident, and it can also take away their confidence when you allow goals, especially like early on in games when you need a save. Like it's not necessarily the goalie's fault, but the goalie's there to make saves. And
Yep.
eventually, you'd like to see a save. And again, I don't want to blame Sam Montembeault. He was really good tonight, especially after the first period. I really don't want to blame him in this, but that's a concept that's the difference between the team now and team back. And also, you have no Monahan, you have no Gallagher, you have no Gooley, you have no Matheson. Although Matheson was kind of out anyway, but there's a lot of guys missing from this team that make a difference. And even when Gallagher came back, he obviously was not healthy. So I don't want to count those games where he came back because the Gallagher has two modes. It's healthy or perpetually injured, even when he's playing, and that's you can tell. He takes a little bit more longer to go to the bench. He's laboring, and it's like, okay, this is how Gallagher is now. Like there goes that healthiness that he felt so good about in preseason and stuff, and it's unfortunate, and but it's clear he was not healthy, and it hurts this team because this team doesn't have the leeway to call up guys from the AHL right now. They have too many veterans on committed contracts,
Yep.
so you can't really have a shakeup until you trade guys. And trading guys is not very easy because of the salary cap and because a lot of the guys have multiple years on their contracts or at least 2 years on their contracts. And the guys who have 1 year on their contracts, like who's going to trade for Evgeny Dadonov right now? Who's going to trade for Jonathan Drouin right
Hey,
now?
Evgeny Dadonov's had like 4 or 5 good games in a row.
He has.
Yeah,
It's a good
the
time for
credit where
him.
it's due. He's turning the
Yeah.
corner maybe a little bit.
Hey, he wants to maybe. I don't know what his no trade list looks like, but at least he doesn't want to go to Anaheim. I mean, we know that. But
No kidding. I mean, I would assume that now that Armia is going a little bit, that like it's easier on Dadonov. I feel like the thing with him is just like his foot speed has not been there this year. Like
yeah,
he's a guy that I think the skills are there, but if you're gonna criticize effort, there's like definitely moments in the game where he frustrates me. Even though I know that overall his impact has been generally pretty good, even though the numbers aren't there for like offensive production. Like generally on the ice, when Dadonov's out there, he's doing good things. But it's stuff like when he's first in on the puck and he pulls up in order to not get hit, right? Or there's a puck near his feet or near his stick in and around the boards and he just elects to not battle for it or like let it go by him and hope that somebody else will get there first and the other team gets there first. It's like little stuff like that that I think drives Canadians fans absolutely wild about him. But I'm guessing that he wants out of here. He doesn't want to play the rest of the season in this environment. He wants a chance to like play on a team that will do something. So I'm guessing that he'll pick it up a little bit towards the trade deadline. Maybe Armia is in the same situation. I think we've already seen Hoffman kind of get into a good spot for a while. Obviously, he seems to be in the doghouse now, which I don't quite understand, but it might be as simple as they're trying to find combinations that work and he's the odd man out because it's not
yeah,
like he's a great player. He's just a decent contributor. But I don't know. It's a tough situation for the Canadians because I think that there's guys this year who they can trade. Guys like Joel Edmondson, who I know has another year on his deal, but I think they could make that deal happen pretty easily. Like Sean Monahan. Edmondson obviously isn't showing why they should get a lot of value for him, but you know what? Neither did Sherratt last year, and they did anyway. But not seeing Sean Monahan in the lineup and having like that salivating that Canadians were having of like, oh, we're gonna get another first round pick for this guy. That's kind of frustrating. We've got 2 more weeks to go until we maybe see him back in the jersey. So another 2 weeks of maybe tough games, but there's still things I think to cling on to about this game, and I think one of them has been the play of Jake Evans lately. You know, we talked about Dadonov and Armia getting things going. Neither of those guys would be going as well as they are right now without Jake Evans. He has been night and day from the Jake Evans that we saw at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, there was, I think it was his second year in Laval, where he went about 30 games in the season without scoring a goal, or maybe 20 games. And he wasn't playing badly at first. He was getting chances, they just weren't going in. And then as a player who doesn't have a goal this season, you start doing things, having bad habits to try and get that goal because you're like, what do I have to do differently to get this goal? And he was going to be a healthy scratch in Laval. Joel Bouchard told him he did extra skating. And in those, 30, 40 minutes that he was on the ice, Charles Hudon gets called up. And it's like, oh, Jake Evans, you got to play today. Gets an empty net goal in that game. And his trajectory just went up from there. And I think that you can pinpoint his improvement this year, or at least the upward trajectory this season, to when he got that first goal. And he's a player who's not relied on to produce offense in this team, but he's still a guy who can produce offense.
Yeah.
And I think that when you don't have a goal, and even Yoel Armia, same thing. When you don't have a goal and your job is to be a forward, like it weighs on you. Like
For
it just
sure
does.
it does. I mean, look at the way Armia
And
reacted when he scored,
right,
right? Like,
right, absolutely. And that was
yeah,
like a nothing goal at that point. It was like 4 or 5-0 at that point, right? Or like it was, or 3-0, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it means a lot to these guys. And I think Evans, I talked about Brendan Gallagher before. Evans is kind of becoming Brendan Gallagher in that he's the guy who's leading the Canadians into the fight. And sometimes literally, like you saw tonight, he literally just pushed guys around and said, I'm tired of this.
yeah. I
And
was
that is a
shocked at how strong he is. Like tonight, I have not seen Evan. Like he's gotten in physical altercations, of course,
mm,
but I haven't seen him manhandle guys like he did tonight. Like what he did to Daniel Sprong, and I know that Sprong was maybe a little bit off balance, but the way he just threw him into the boards after the play, I didn't. Jake Evans had that in him, and he hit another guy like a couple shifts later, just absolutely destroyed him. I don't remember who it was in the Kraken, but just laid him out and clean. You know, it was
yeah,
perfect. And I feel like that kind of stuff from Evans is also like pushing the tempo a little bit for the rest of the team and like being like, listen, I give a shit. You've got to give a shit now too. And the fight at the end of the game also, I guess it was midway through the second period, or third period, sorry. Uh, that probably helped guys that get a little bit more engaged as well. I want to know what Chris Weidman said to get tossed from the game because
he,
that
he
whole
didn't get to,
situation.
it was a 10 minute, it was a 10-minute misconduct.
I mean,
So
there was only 10 minutes
technically
left, right?
tossed. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, but yeah,
they
I
gave
mean,
him what they needed to give him to keep him out of the rest of the game, right? But I like
yeah,
that whole situation. It was like a little bit over midway through the third period. Yoel Armia is going in for a check on Vince Dunn, and I'm flabbergasted that they called that a penalty because it's like the last second Dunn turns his back, which is like the one thing that they tell you never to do. And I remember Brandon Prust used to do it all the time, and refs wouldn't call hits from behind on him, like at all. They'd even call him for dives if he got hit from behind. So I was surprised that they called that on Armia, and I feel like there was frustration boiling over from the way that the game was called for Evans, and then on top of that, the Kraken were starting to get like a little bit feisty, and he was like, you know what, we're dropping gloves, and I'm wondering if Weidman had like a pointed comment about the officiating because again, it's not why they lost the
yeah,
game, but considering Alexiak boarded Kovacevic earlier in the game far more dangerously than what Armia did in terms of intent, than what Armia did to Vince Dunn, and there was no call. Like there was some major inconsistencies there, and I feel like that combined with the score got the Canadians a little bit testy at the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, look, Weidman is one of those veterans who you can tell cares about the people around him. He just does. Like he doesn't play every game. He's been in and out of the lineup. He's not the best player on this defense. Like he's in and out of the lineup. If they were probably all healthy, he wouldn't be in the lineup. In all honesty, which is not anything against him. It's just the reality of the situation. But he signed up for this. Like he signed up for this year. He really liked the experience with Martin St. Louis. I think he signed for 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. And he just likes this group and stands up for them. And he knows that if he takes some misconduct, it doesn't really hurt the team.
Yeah,
He's a sixth defenseman. Like he knows, like if anyone's going to stand up and talk to the officials, he knows that it can be him, and it's not a big deal. And I think that's what he does. And back to Evans, like it just he's become like in terms of attitude on the ice for me, peak Brendan Gallagher. He doesn't have the skills, obviously, but in terms of like a guy who gets the bench amped up and is like, listen, I'm tired of losing. Follow me and let's do this. That's peak Brendan Gallagher. Like that's how many games, you've watched this team as long as I have, if not longer, as much as I have. How many times has this team had no goals midway through the third period, and the one goal that comes up is Brendan Gallagher, and he
yeah, off
tries
his
to get the
face or
team back?
something.
Yeah, just a garbage goal, or when he was healthy, really healthy, coming down the wing and just scoring a goal like that maybe the team didn't even deserve, but it brought them back into the game. And I think that that's something that Gallagher always did when this team was losing, and I think that that's kind of rubbed off on Evans. And I think he was a captain at Notre Dame. He's a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about leadership group, and a lot of is put on David Savard and Nick Suzuki, obviously Joel Edmondson, Gallagher when he's healthy, and the veterans in age. But Evans is becoming that, and I think that people who just kind of write him off in the future of this rebuild, um, are kind of forgetting that you need guys like Jake Evans on a team.
Yeah, I don't see
And
him going anywhere.
no, I don't either. And people are like, oh, where can you fit him in the lineup? You fit guys like that in the lineup.
Yeah,
I mean, look, right now, Jonathan Drew has the fourth line center. There's room.
yeah.
There's room. Even if you add a couple of centers, there's room for Jake Evans.
Well, if Jake
He
Evans is
showed
your
he can play
fourth line
wing.
center, you're in such a good position.
They
Like,
they have been when he's been the fourth line center, and there's legitimately three centers ahead of him. They they've been really good.
yep,
Like we've seen it. It's not a there's proof of concept of that. Like he's it's kind of like when people talk about guys like Arturi Lekkinen or Lars Eller, and it's like, oh, they're not top six centers. Okay, not everyone has to be a top six player, and Arturi
yeah,
Lekkinen is, so it doesn't make a difference. But in terms of Lars Eller, like, but that's the kind of feeling. Arturi Lekkinen was never going to be a top six player in Montreal. He just wasn't under the coaching staff. Um, and it's just you need guys like that. And Jake Evans is a guy that just steps up. Like he played on the top line wing at times before getting hurt in the playoffs. Like he just there. He's versatile. He's a guy who cares, and I think he's showing that leadership quality that maybe people don't always see. It's coming through on the ice now, and
yeah.
people are seeing it. And I think it's important for this team to see that. Like I would almost like right now that Army and Evans are going, like put Slavkovsky back on that line. See how that goes for a bit. Like I know Dadonov has been playing well on that line, but I think you need to find a home for Slavkovsky. And I know it's frustrating, like looking at ice time, and I'm not really worried about the ice time. What I want to see is like there's going to be a combination for him somewhere. Like Monahan worked, and obviously he's not in the lineup right now, but it's clear that Dvorak and Anderson are not working. So you just gonna have to figure out what you're gonna do to put him in a. And I would want to try it and just see put him on that line and see two guys who are going really well. Savkovsky played really well today, probably better than his two line mates, and see how it goes. But then again, Evans and Armia are two responsible players, so you can kind of even shelter. You don't even have to shelter that line; it can still work. But yeah, I mean, I love Jake Evans, and I like that he's showing a little frustration because somebody should,
Yeah,
if we're
yeah,
being honest.
100%.
Like,
This
so
is the same as like when people were kind of wringing their hands about Brendan Gallagher and I forget who was the other guy that kind of mucked it up at the end of a game recently, and like Gallagher kind of hit somebody in a like dirty manner, and I was like, good, like at least he's showing like he gives a shit, you know. And
yeah,
I think Edmondson as well. Edmondson with like a big
mhm,
cross check behind the play. It was the one that injured
yeah,
the ref, unfortunately, but
right, yes, yeah, exactly.
or injured the linesman. But like that kind of stuff, I like what I said on on the show after was like, there's no two guys on the team that are being held in higher regard after that game than those two guys, because they went out there in a game where like nobody was playing hard, and they were like this game that seems like it doesn't matter, it still fucking matters, right? And they were getting angry about it, and think in a team where you're rebuilding, that does matter. But I want to pivot quickly
Yeah.
to Slavkovsky because we were going to do questions, but the questions that showed up I think are not like great jumping off points for conversation. One of them is about a draft, and I'm not a draft expert, so I don't really want to venture too deep into the draft without bringing like a scout on the show or something like that. But Slavkovsky was asked about the World Juniors in Slovakia versus Canada, and him not going there and staying in the NHL instead and having a really tough month. And he had a really long and nuanced answer, and I just want to go over it quickly. Uh, he says, I heard my compatriot Simon Nemec say that I might have scored in overtime if I've been with the team. Maybe, but we'll never know. I'm not the type to think what could have happened if I had been there or if we had done things differently. Remember when the Canadians decided that I wouldn't participate in the World Juniors in early December? There were several injured players in the team. Even though I've never been told about the possibility of going to the junior team for my country, I was trying to keep my place in the Canadians. I've always loved representing my country in international competitions, but I wanted to focus on my first season in the NHL. My goal is to improve and increase in rank in training. I guess like get stronger, get better. For this reason, in the end, I never stopped thinking what would have happened if ever. Or I never stopped thinking about what would have happened. I'm guessing he means he never thought about what would have happened.
Yeah,
Some are of the opinion that I would have won by being dominant against players my age. Others believe that it was better for me to continue my journey by confronting men, playing against men. To this answer, to this I answer that I fully trust the team leaders to determine what's best for me. They are much smarter than me to make this kind of decision. Marty had a great career in the NHL. I'm so happy when I receive feedback from the coaches because I continually learn and progress. I will not hide from you that the last month has been difficult for the team and for me. It is precisely part of a long learning process. There will be ups and downs. The last 10 games were not very good. I myself had problems, but it is the job that comes back. I am convinced that this team will grow up from this soon and it will become better, just like me. It's only a month. One day, when everything gets better, we can laugh at this bad time and we'll be happy with the progress that we've come about since that time. At the time, it's not pleasant to live. We must not feel too sorry for our fate or give in to discouragement. We play games almost every 2 days, and that's where we have to stay focused. It's a good thing to be able to share all these experiences, both good and bad, with other young people my age. We spend a lot of time together. We also mix well with the veterans. We are clenched together. The practice is widespread in Slovakia as elsewhere in the world, but I am not the type to make resolutions at the beginning of each year. I just want to win hockey games no matter the time of year. So what you can wish is for the whole team in 2023 to win as many games as possible and to be very successful as well. That's all. Now, the last lines there have been kind of memed on social media by House fans being like, yeah, well, we're not going to wish you win as many games as possible. Here's the thing, though, folks. As many games as possible might be like 10 the rest of the
and,
schedule.
and and let's face it, nobody in that room is thinking about Connor Bedard.
No.
Like, nobody in that room is thinking. Even Marty St. Louis is not thinking about that. It just doesn't happen. Like, you lose organically. Like, no one in that room is like, oh, we can't win this game. We'll help affect our lottery odds. No one cares about that. It's not. It does not even enter that room
Yeah,
in
boardroom
discussion.
and locker room are two very different dynamics,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
but I think the main thing that I took away from that Slavkovsky quote is how mature he is. The way he
Eh,
approaches all of this stuff, like that's an 18-year-old I was so much dumber than that at 18. Like,
Like, look, this was obviously massaged by either the writer or the Habs media staff. Like, let's be honest here for a little
for
bit.
sure.
But however, that was like I was entering the draft. I was like, no, why are you drafting Slavkovsky? It makes no sense. It doesn't make sense. Shane Wright's the best player. Take Shane Wright. Then the pick happened. Then I spoke to Uri Slavkovsky that night, and I was like, oh, this is why they took him.
Hmm.
And you can just see a level, and you can say this about the whole 2022 draft class, because Owen Beck, Philip Meshar, Lane Hudson, Vincent Rohrer, Cedric Gandel, they all have this exact same gene in them. It's kind of unbelievable. They definitely had a type this year, but in terms of maturity, understanding, and everything that goes into that, he's he's ahead of the game. And I think that when you look at what did Kent Hughes say? I don't want the best player at 18. I want the best player at 21. Everything that Uri Slavkovsky has said and done to this point has been about a growth mindset.
Yep.
And I think that that is the key here. Like, I don't care about points. I don't care about assists this season. It's meaningless to me. I'm a little surprised they kept him up as long as they did. But when he says that feedback from Marty means a lot to him, I understand it. I get it. Like
Yeah.
is feedback going to be better coming from Martin St. Louis or Jean-Francois Houle? Like, let's just be honest here. I think it means a lot there. This team isn't really going anywhere anyway. The contract thing is really, in my opinion, inconsequential. They'll deal with it when they have to deal with it. It's done, whatever. But what I see from him and him talking about the World Juniors in that context, because it could be really easy for any 18-year-old to be like, oh man, like I could have made a difference in that game. Like I could have checked Connor Bedard. Like I have legs that can go on for days. Like imagine if they had a second player like Simon Nemec and Philip Meshar, like a third player, I guess. But he didn't. And Marco Casper is in Sweden. He's an Austrian. He said, I don't want to go to the World Juniors. I want to play for my team in Sweden and prepare for the men's world championships. And look, Juraj Slavkovsky has played in the Olympics. He's played in the men's worlds. He's not an under 20 player anymore. And I
Yeah.
will I will I will stand on this hill, and I know people disagree with me. He is not a junior player. He has nothing to prove against players his own age level anymore. He's beyond that. And I'm not saying that he would have gone and dominated. I'm not saying that he would have gone and been bigger and better than everybody else, but he's growing beyond that. He's beyond that. And I think that that's where the Canadians are. I think that's where he is. And even the fact is that I think it may have not been as evident in the translation that you had, but when you read it in French, he's like, the Canadians didn't ask me, but even if they had, I wouldn't have gone. Um, I think that or when he said that he wanted to be in the NHL anyway, or focus on being on the NHL, that's his growth mindset. He
Mhm.
knows that he doesn't want to be the best player at the World Juniors. That's not his goal. It's not
Yeah.
his goal right now. Yes, it would be nice to look. He won an Olympic medal with Slovakia. Would a bronze at the World Juniors really make a difference for him? No.
No.
He led his country to bronze in the Olympics. Like
Yeah.
that's as big as it gets, right? So I think that it shows. Like I was always on send him down, let him work there. Like, what do you do? Like, why are you rushing him? But they're not rushing him. He's exactly on the same page as everybody else. He's still showing fight. He's still showing improvement. Like, this is what you want from him. And I think that the Canadians in 3 or 4 years will benefit from it greatly and surround him with all the talent that was at the World Juniors. And along with Suzuki and Caulfield and Gooley and all those guys,
And Connor Bedard.
um, and whoever they pick in twice in the top 10 this year.
Well, I will predict that
Um,
Slavkovsky will get a very serious bump in his offensive production if his center next year is not Christian Dvorak, but Connor Bedard.
Even if it's Owen Beck.
I mean, yeah, probably true.
If you like put Slavkovsky with like Owen Beck and Joshua Roy next year and let that line cook. Look, there's gonna be room for improvement in this team, and it's gonna be a slow build. But next year, there's a lot of guys coming pro, and it'll be a lot. The rebuild will be a lot more clear of what direction it's going in next year. I think when you have guys like Joshua Waugh, Riley Kidney, um, probably Sean Farrell, uh, joining the organization. Oliver Kapanen probably as well. Although he can go back to Europe. I'm not sure his contract situation. Patrick, don't kill me. But Emil Heineman will probably be back. There's a lot of guys who can join the organization next year, and it'll look like a rebuild. Like even Laval right now doesn't look like a rebuild. It's like, oh, who are the prospects in Laval? It's like Xavier Simoneau and Raphael Harvey Pinard and Jesse Ulinen. It's like, okay, great, good job. Like that's good talent there, but they're in an awkward phase. Most of their guys are in junior still. So, but look, I that whole article by Uri Slafkovsky, and it's on lnash.com if you haven't read it, is so good, and it really puts everything into perspective of what this team is doing right now.
Yeah,
and
100%.
and it's
There's been a
that
bunch of. Sorry, go ahead.
no, it just shows the focus on development,
Yeah,
right? It's not they have a plan, right? Like we've seen the Canadians lots of times throw guys in the NHL and be like, "Good luck,"
yeah, sink or
and
swim,
it's
figure it out.
yeah, and it's very clear that's not happening with Uri Slafkovsky. And even if he's demoted to the fourth line, it doesn't mean he's demoted to the fourth line. It just means he's getting less minutes. Like he doesn't have to spend 20 minutes on the ice to learn.
Yeah,
And I think that's important. And as long as the team tells him that, look, we're not punishing you, we're just playing other players right now. Like as long as they communicate, which again, problem in this organization in the past, um, it's fine. And I think it's clear that he trusts that they're doing the right thing because they're communicating it to him. And I think that's the best news you can hear as a Canadiens fan. I don't care about wins and losses. I don't care about goals scored. I don't care about goals against. Hearing that is fantastic
yeah,
because it means that this organization is putting action where their mouths were, and it's not just blah blah blah. It's coming into focus, and you knew that because you can see Adam Nicholas, you can see everything that's going on in his organization. So no, but that article was great, and Slafkovsky has a ton of maturity, and it's clear why the Canadians fell in love with him beyond just his goals in the Olympics and whatever. Like he has a personality that has a growth mindset, and not everybody has that.
no, it's
Like
true.
if you go to top players in any draft, and I'm not singling out anybody here. Don't turn this against Shane Wright or anything. If you go to top prospects and say, why didn't you do this on this play? They're gonna fight back. Like think about like even guys like Max. Like think about like going to Max Domi like that. Like would he respond well to that? Like or a young Jonathan Drouin? Probably not. Like they'd fight back and be like, "Oh no, that was the right play. That was the right play." Guys don't usually do that, and I think that having a growth mindset is what this organization wants to focus on,
Yeah, hundred
and
percent.
not just Lane Hudson's height.
He brought his endocrinologist. Yeah. The thing about the whole World Junior situation with Uri Slafkovsky and that becoming like a big talking point over the last several weeks, so much of it has to do with like how well Slovakia did and people
Mhm.
watching Shane Wright, play decently well. I wouldn't say he tore it up for Team Canada. I think he did very well in like the elimination rounds, but
Mhm.
overall, he wasn't on their top line. Right? He
Mhm.
was the second line center. Some would say even third line center at times. But watching that at the same time as Slavkovsky struggling and the Canadians struggling in general created this narrative of like, oh, maybe they should have sent Slav down. My opinion the entire time has been basically what you were alluding to when you were talking about it, which is what's he going to gain from it? Is it going to make him a better player to dominate junior players instead of playing and struggling in the NHL and learning things with Adam Nicholas every day, being around the team? And I don't see where people think that he needs to go play against junior players. I'm totally with you on him being beyond that right now. He needs to get his game into a pro mindset, uh, doing pro habits, game in, game out, And I think the way he played tonight against Seattle compared to the way the rest of the team played, even in the first period, after that like big article about him not going to the World Juniors, I think that kind of like motivated him a little bit. And whatever they fed him before the game, feed him that from now on, because kid was hyped. But I think that's all we have for tonight, because I think we've already probably gone long. And Jared's a little bit under the weather. I've got kids that wake up in the morning, so we'll close it out there. Jared, thank you so much for coming on with me tonight to talk about this relatively uninteresting game. And we'll talk to you very soon. Before we leave, Jared, tell everybody where you could find, or where they can find your work.
Yeah, haveseyesontheprize.com. Me and a lot of other people right there. I don't write as often as I probably as I used to. Said kid that you say wakes up early, it's makes a difference.
Changes things,
Yeah. But no, we have a great team there. I make bad jokes on Twitter if you want to follow me at there, Jared Book, as well. So yeah, lots of fun stuff. Women's hockey is entering the picture again as well. So that's always in my heart. So lots of stuff there, and it's a lot of fun.
All right, sounds
It's
good.
not all about the Canadiens.
Not all about the Canadiens. Yeah. All right, sounds good. And we'll be back on Thursday when the Canadiens play their next game. We'll see you then.
Game over! Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.